Welcome to this recording. This recording is for Drafting 60. It's in regards to attaching a CTB file and discussing what a CTB file does, attaching your title block into paperspace, scaling a viewport to an architectural scale, and lastly, plotting to a PDF. So here we are in model space. You may be accustomed to just using model space, but for this course, model space and paper space are both involved. Model space is known by clicking the tab on the lower left that says Model. A tab on the lower left that says Layout is known to be paper space. Layout tabs or multiple layout tabs can be created by hitting the plus sign. You can attach more than one layout tab for a drawing. You can also rename a layout tab if you wish to rename it. To rename a layout tab, right-click on that layout tab, go to Rename, and we can name it Sample. So model space, again, is something that we use always in a drawing. It's where we draw everything one-to-one. Paper space is known for your paper layouts. So if I come to model space, here we have our full drawing and a simple architectural layout for a floor plan in model space. So a CTB file is known to be a file that we attach into AutoCAD, and it dictates the line weight that is plotted based on color. So if we were to go to our plot manager, Control P, the basic setup for the plot manager, you may recognize this type of screen. If you look at the lower right-hand corner of that screen, you'll see an arrow. When you click the arrow, you'll see advanced options within your plot menu. Okay? So I'm going to hit cancel there. So to attach a CTB file, first let's open this CTB file so you can see what is involved in that CTB file. The CTB file ends in the designation of CTB. You can download this from your course module in Canvas. If we look at the table view, which is the second tab from the left, you will see what we have colors, and these various colors represent the line colors or the layer colors for your drawing. Based on the color, these settings I have created so that if you put something on a layer that is a color of red, color number 1, it will plot black and it will plot a certain line weight. So you'll notice that each color has a different line weight. Okay. We will find that when we're looking at our title block, and you'll see this later on in this recording, title blocks are typically magenta. So if you're using this specific CTB file, magenta plots quite thick, whereas a red line plots quite thin. So again, colors dictate the line weight using a CTB file. So I'm going to close that. To attach a CTB file, we type the command Styles Manager. So let's put on our F12 so we can see what we're doing. Styles Manager. And then we hit enter. Okay. So for Styles Manager, it pops up a window, and this window is attached to AutoCAD, and it's where we can find all of our various CTB files that AutoCAD comes with. Okay, I'm going to delete the one that I'm going to drag in. Okay, if you're working on your home computer or office computer, you only have to do this once. If you're doing this in the classroom, you always have to bring that CTB file in before you plot for that specific day or night. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to find our CTB file that we've typically would save to the desktop so we can find it. And then what we're going to do is we're physically going to drag and drop it into this specific window. You'll see on the icon it says Move to Plot Styles, and that is what we want. So when I drag and drop it, it becomes a part of AutoCAD. So now I am going to then close this window. So now when I go to plot, I can set up my settings. Okay, I can set up my settings. So if we want to eventually plot to a PDF, we would come to Printer Plotter, select the name, and we would select DWG to PDF. That is the default PDF creator in AutoCAD. If you have professional Adobe Acrobat installed on your computer, you can plot to a PDF using that software. However, if you do not have professional version of Adobe Acrobat on your computer, this setting works just as well. Okay. Then we come up to our plot style table menu. So a CTB file is known to be a color table file. It is a file, again, that dictates colors plotting to a specific line weight. Okay, so we're going to come up here. The default selection is none. What we're going to do here is we're going to find our file that we've inserted. You should see it in this menu. So if you see it in the menu, you select it. Okay, when you select it, it says, do you wish to assign it to all layouts? And you say yes. Okay, hit apply and cancel. Applying to the layout, if I come back in there and applying to the layout, tells CAD, please remember my settings. Okay, if you don't hit apply to layout before you close this window, you'll have to set up the settings again. Okay, now one side note, if you come into here and you do not see the CTB file that you've brought into AutoCAD, there is a command that you can type. Okay, that command is convert P styles. Convert P styles means essentially you're waking up the computer AutoCAD to search for any new CTB files, and then they will appear in the plot menu. So if I hit enter, it says, are you sure you wish to continue? We say okay. And what we do here is essentially when we hit cancel, we're not opening anything, we're just hitting cancel and it refreshes AutoCAD. So then I would go to plot, and here it would then appear. So sometimes it appears on people's computers and sometimes it does not. If it does, you're in luck and it's already there. If it doesn't, you get out of this menu, type convert P styles, hit OK, then cancel. It refreshes the screen, and then you should be able to find it in your plot manager. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to bring in our title block. Our title block file is titled D60 TTBL D.dwg. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go to AutoCAD Design Center. In AutoCAD Design Center, all the files that I need I've saved to my desktop so I can find them easily. Okay, so I'm going to come to the file that I want. I want to double click that file in AutoCAD Design Center. Again, here in AutoCAD Design Center, I can bring in anything from another CAD file into this current CAD file. But for this specific example, I want to bring in a specific layout tab. So I'm going to double click on Layouts. Here you will see a D-size layout tab. So what I want to do here is I want to grab this icon and drag and drop it into this specific CAD file. When I do that, you'll see on the lower left hand of the screen that that layout tab will appear. And here we are. So because I've brought that in, now it's a part of this CAD file. So now I can close AutoCAD Design Center. So here I'm going to come to D-size layout tab, which again is paper space. Okay. All right, so here's paper space, and here is our title block. The title block is on its specific layers, so you don't need to move anything. This title block is a D-size title block, meaning that it's supposed to print on a 24 by 36 inch sheet of paper. You will also find what we call a viewport. The viewport allows us to see into model space. Okay. Now there's two different options to create a viewport. Here you've been provided one. You can create your own. If you want to create your own, click on that viewport and delete it. Okay. Again, a viewport is a window to see into model space. So your two options for creating that viewport is either put it on what we call the depth points layer, or put it on a layer called viewport, or some sort of designation so you have a specific layer for your viewports. If you put it on the depth points layer, when you go to plot, the frame of the viewport will not plot because it is on depth points. If you create a viewport layer, you have to make sure that that viewport layer is set to not plot. So here's an example. If I set the current layer to be depth points, okay, and I want to create a viewport, when I go to plot this title block, anything on the depth points layer we can see, but it will not plot. So that's one option for your viewports. If you want to create your own viewport, you're going to have to come into Layer Manager, create a viewport layer, so you can title it Viewport. Okay. And make sure that you put your viewports on that specific layer. But here you're going to choose Don't Plot. So when you choose the icon here and it turns to a little red circle on the printer itself, that means it will not plot. You will be able to visually see it because it's on, but it will not plot. So those are your two options. Okay? Either one works just fine. I typically use depth points just because I can always have it on. I don't have to worry about setting it to not plot. And I can always see what's going on. Alright, here we are on dev points. Now we're going to make our viewport. We're going to type MV. MV stands for multi-view, but you can think of it as make viewport. Then we're going to choose one corner of the viewport, and then we're going to choose the opposite corner of the viewport. When we click the last corner, you will then see a viewport created. So then we can double click inside the viewport. Understanding paper space. I know I am in paper space right now. 1, because I'm in the paper space tab. 2, because I have a triangle in the lower left hand corner. And 3, because the viewport is thin. If I double click inside that viewport, it becomes bold. When it becomes bold, you will see your cursor, UCS cursor, appear in the viewport. The triangle will disappear and the viewport will become bold. So here I want to essentially scale this site plan in this viewport on this sheet. When you're going to scale a viewport, make sure that the object that you're trying to scale is approximately in the center of the viewport. If you had this object way over here and you scaled or zoomed this viewport from this location here, it always chooses the center of the viewport as the scaling area. This object would zoom off into space and you would see a blank screen. So you want to make sure that the object is clearly located in the proximate center of the viewport so that when we want to scale this thing, we'll be able to see the object. So what I want to do here is I want to go to the lower right hand corner and find our scales. If we're setting up a site plan, we want to be able to see all of the components for that site plan. So if we come down here, we want to choose an architectural scale. Here we're going to just choose an arbitrary scale and see if it fits. So here if I choose 3/16 scale, I see that it somewhat works, but I don't have the full property included in that viewport. So what I have to do here is I'm still in that viewport, I come down here and I choose a different scale. I need to choose a smaller scale than the one that I chose. So I'm going to choose 1/8 scale. So if I have 1/8 scale, does everything fit? If I pan around this viewport, yes, I can make everything fit. Okay? So if I like that scale, I then come back down here and lock that scale in. When I lock that scale in, then if I try to pan or zoom in and out, the viewport is locked, but I can still touch things inside the viewport and I can still move my screen around. Because this viewport is a window into model space, I can modify that window however I need to show what I need on this specific layout. So if I find that I don't have enough room or I haven't been able to show all of my utilities down here, I can then just grab the grips of that viewport and stretch it down so that I can see absolutely everything. Okay. Once you have figured out a specific scale for your specific sheet, I recommend that you fill out the title block so that you remember the scale that is being used. So I did 1/8 scale, so I can come to my scale manager or scale text, 1/8 inch equals 1 foot dash 0 inches. Okay, so that's my site plan. So then I can copy that. I can copy it on over. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on that. I'm not going to double click, but I'm going to click on that viewport, and I'm going to physically unlock the viewport so I can change the scale so that I can just show my floor plan. Okay, don't worry about the line type scale right now. That comes later. All we want to do here on this specific exercise is bring in the title block, scale the viewports, plot to a PDF using the CTB file. Okay, so here's this floor plan. I want to come down here. We want to make sure that it's unlocked. We're going to come down here and we're going to choose a different scale. Okay, 3/16, it all fits. So the floor plan all fits. But here again, we want to make sure we fill in the space as much as possible. We don't want to rotate the floor plan. We want the floor plan such that the front of the floor plan is on the bottom of the sheet. That's the typical standard. So here I'm going to come here. I'm going to choose quarter scale. That fits even better. Can I go to something bigger than that, 3/8 scale? No, not for this specific exercise. So I'm going to come back to here. I'm going to choose the quarter scale for my specific layout. I like that. I'm going to click Lock Viewport. I'm going to come double click outside of the viewport so that I'm back in Paperspace. Okay. Side note, to get back into the viewport, double click inside. To get into Paperspace, double click outside. Double click inside, double click outside. Never double click on the viewport itself. It'll take you to a different screen and confuse you. So always make sure you're way inside that border of the viewport. Double click inside. Then I can touch things in model space. If I want to come back into Paperspace, double click outside of the viewport, and now I'm in Paperspace. So because I scaled this viewport as 1/4 inch, I'm going to come to the scale for this specific sheet and change that to 1/4 scale. So here I have two different layouts set up. I have the sheet for my site plan and I have a sheet for my floor plan. Two different scales, both in the same drawing, and now we can plot. Okay, now we can plot. So we're going to go to Control P for plot. Remember, I hit apply to layout, so it remembered the printer settings that I had set up. Okay, I'm going to come here. I'm going to select the CTB file. I'm going to hit apply. Then what we want to do is paper size. We want to choose architectural full bleed, 36 inches by 24 inches. So when you're on your computer, you'll have a big old long list from the DWG to PDF plotter. So make sure you can find architectural full bleed 36 by 24. Then you're going to want to do is you're going to window to plot. So you want to window what you physically want to plot. So we're going to click window, and you're going to O-snap to the designation of the limits of the sheet. So you're going to use your O-snaps, and you're going to snap to one corner, and then you're going to use your O-snaps again and snap to the opposite corner. When you do that, make sure that center of the plot is checked. Okay. Check the box that says scale line weights. Apply to layout. Before you print it to a PDF or before you print it to a plotter or printer, you always want to do a preview plot. meaning it's going to show you exactly how it's going to plot. If there's something wrong and it's not centered, or it's not to scale, or something you can see something is awry, you're not wasting time to create a PDF, and you're not wasting time creating something that's plotting to the printer or plotter. If you're sending things to a printer or plotter and they're printing wrong, you're wasting the paper, you're wasting the ink. Okay, so if we go to preview, we will see what it's going to plot. And here we can see that yes, our CTB file is attached because different colors are plotting different thicknesses. You can see our walls, which are green, are a lot thicker than our walls in our house. Okay. You can see the setback is very thin. You can see the property line is very thick. So if you want to see the actual physical component or line type of these dashed lines, the phantom line type of the property lines, so forth and so on, if you do a command called LTS, which stands for line type scale, you can do that. And you can change your line type scale factor to 1 if it's not already set to that, in which case you'll be able to see the integrity of the line. It doesn't change anything other than what you're seeing on the screen. LTS, if I change it to 2, it'll become double the size. Again, if I change that to 4, it's double the size over that. So again, it just shows you the line type scale at a specific scale factor. It's not changing the length of the line, it's just changing what you're seeing. So again, if I do a plot, and now I preview it with the line type scale set to 1, now we see line types as they should show on a typical plot. Okay. If I want CAD to remember that this specific setting is set for this specific sheet, and I've set everything up correctly, I can then go to Add, and I can say Site Plan, because that is what that sheet is. Or I can just say Site, or whatever I want to call it. Okay. So if I hit OK, now CAD remembers that all of those settings are set for Site. Okay. Now if I want to plot the next sheet, I want to plot the floor plan. I can then go to Window. I want to then window this sheet. So O-snap to one corner, O-snap to the other corner. Hit Apply, all the same settings, and do Preview, and it should be the floor plan. I can then hit Escape to get back into the Plot Manager. I like the settings, so I can go to Add, and I can say Floor Plan, so that I can know how to find that specific sheet. So you'll find that once you start creating your various sheets, you can find them in the Page Setup Manager. If I wanted to come back to the site plan, all I would have to do is select Site, hit Apply, go to Preview, and it will preview the site plan. Again, if I want to come to the floor plan, I can select Floor Plan, hit Apply, and Preview, and it takes me to the floor plan. Okay. So one last thing before we print. Site plan, we're going to show everything except for interior things. So to turn things off in a viewport, you need to be inside the viewport. So to get inside that viewport, we double click inside. Here the viewport is bold, so we know we are now in model space. We're then going to make sure we're in our Home tab. You're going to come to your layers and you're going to click freeze. When you are in a viewport, the freeze button automatically becomes what we call a viewport freeze. The viewport freeze allows you to turn things off in a specific viewport. So if I click freeze, and then I click a layer that I want to turn off, it will only turn off in this specific viewport. So here you can see a viewport of the site plan here and a viewport of the floor plan over here. So if I just click this, I'm inside this specific viewport and I turn off my interior lines, you will see things disappear in this viewport only, because things have been put on the correct layer. So if I hit escape, that's all we want to see. So here for my floor plan, I want to turn off the boundary line, the property line, and I want to turn off the setback line, because all we want to see in the floor plan is the limits of the house and everything inside it. Okay. So we have two different sheets, two different things we want to show. So again, if I go to plot and I go to site and I hit apply and preview, it'll just plot what we have on in that viewport. If I like what I see, I can then hit the printer in the upper left hand corner and it takes you automatically to your filing area where you can specify where you want to save that specific file. So if I want to save this to my documents, I can do that. If I want to save it to my desktop, I can do that. So first I would call it D60 site and then today's date, and we can hit save. So it's going to print it to a physical PDF. So when we print it to a physical PDF, it's a digital file that you can then send to your client. Or you can send it to the printer, however you want to go about doing that. Okay, I'm going to close that. Then I'm going to plot the floor plan. Control P, choose the floor plan, hit apply, preview. We like what we see. Come up to the upper left, plot. I'm going to save it to my desktop. I'm going to call it floor plan, today's date, save, creates a PDF, and here we can see the PDF, and you can see things plotted such that, again, the green lines are very thick and various other colors are thin. Okay. So we've been able to attach a CTB file. We've been able to bring in our title block. We've been able to create viewports. We've been able to lock those viewports to a specific scale. And lastly, we've been able to plot to a PDF. That concludes this recording, and take care.